With the U.S. national debt sitting over $37 trillion and U.S. federal spending over $7 trillion, with only $5 trillion in federal tax revenue, leaving a federal budget deficit of over $2 trillion, a supernatural wealth transfer is planned, and it will be a new money revolution. Now, in today's video, what we're going to talk about is this new money revolution and a little history lesson of what's happened going all the way back to the creation of the Federal Reserve, the US dollar, and a debt to wealth revolution that is happening right now as we speak to create new money for American citizens. And as history's biggest wealth transfer hides in plain sight, they're called infrastructure inversions. When old technology, new technology exists simultaneously over 10 to a 20-year window, and people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been hinting at it, saying things like the most ironic outcome is the most likely. And US senators plan to consider a new version of a crypto market structure bill at the end of September. So you better buckle your seatbelts because the next few months are going to be absolutely massive for the crypto market. And we're going to discuss what's taking place right now on the chart for Bitcoin, XRP to the US dollar, and expectations as we head into the next FOMC meeting coming up next month. But even more important, what's about to happen by the end of this year. So if you're feeling bullish, if you're feeling blessed, comment 777. And if you're going to become the first millionaire or billionaire in your family tree, confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So when we talk about a new money revolution, a great wealth transfer, but yet the crypto market sees pullbacks like this, 5, 10, 15, 20%, a lot of new investors, they get shaken out, they get concerned, they start freaking out because they've never been through a bull run before, and they don't understand how pullbacks are completely normal on the way up, especially the closer that we get to the top, the more frequent, the more aggressive the pullbacks are. So that's why we created this Discord group for smart investors in our community to connect, network, and grow together. We have about 284 members in there. I'll leave a link for that in the description below. It's free to join, and we got some exciting updates we're going to be posting in there over the next 30 to 60 days that we've been prepping behind the scenes to help you guys make more money day trading these markets during bull markets or bear markets. So that way you can make money on the way down. Because over the past couple years, the elite have been programming the masses, specifically Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because Trump announced Americans may receive a dividend funded by tariff revenue, saying that that was a great idea. And Elon Musk says there will be universal high income, not merely universal basic income. Everyone will have the best medical care, food, home, transportation, and everything else. Sustainable abundance is what he calls it. But how could they possibly pull that off with the US national debt sitting over $37 trillion? Because if we use the time machine right here and we go back to 1980, look at what the US national debt was back then. It was only $900 billion, not even $1 trillion. And from 2020, we went from $26 trillion to over $37 trillion. We gained over $11 trillion in just 5 years, and more money was printed and added to the US national debt in a few months in 2020 after COVID happened than the first 200 years of the United States of America being formed. And if we use the time machine to go into the future, by 2029, the U.S. national debt is expected to be over $47 trillion. So this is definitely unsustainable. The federal budget deficit is going to continue to grow on this path. And so the elite understand this, and they've been planning this supernatural wealth transfer. Why do you guys think that Trump is going all in on crypto, signing these executive orders and getting ready to pass all these bills that are favorable for the crypto market? And why do you think the USDebtClock.org has been hinting about this, putting out these secret windows for a few years now? Well, I'll leave a link to this resource in the description below so you guys can check this out. But this is a 34-page PDF document talking about the new money revolution in a golden age of wonders, going all the way from a den of thieves and the Bank of England to a simple plan for money reinvented to create the new financial system that we're going into. Now, I'm not going to cover this entire 34-page PDF here because you guys can read it for yourself, but I will cover a few things that are really important here. Because today we are witnessing a money-changing crime of monumental proportions. Every day our labor and life energy is being stolen from us by a system that was designed to transfer the wealth of all working people to a small elite class of money overlords whose only desire is power and control with nothing to offer but misery and bondage. Now, it's hard to believe in this day and age with how technology moves and the speed at which you can send a text message, especially with banking, how it still takes 3 to 5 days to send money. But there was once a time in England, over 600 years before the banks, money was counted on tally sticks, and this was the first encrypted ledger to keep track of financial transactions, mostly taxes. And back in 1694, a grand experiment originated. What if money was converted from something of value to a future obligation, a promise to pay, an IOU, blessed by the government? The world would never be the same after this. And their experiment worked because today, with very few exceptions, the world operates on a promise to pay system, money issued as government created debt from nothing. The banks have even gotten the world to believe that this unpayable debt and unfunded compounding interest is a security, and even convince people to save in bank accounts that the elite control. And in 1764, a British law banned the issuing of paper money in the American colonies and required the withdrawal of existing paper money. The act demanded the payment of taxes owed to the crown in hard currency, which is gold and silver, and the effect was devastating to the colonies, causing a shortage of currency, greatly affecting trade and commerce. And history is littered with empires that have collapsed for many reasons, but one of the surest ways to destroy a society is to debauch its currency. The Federal Reserve dollar has lost 97% of its value since its introduction in 1913, and you can see civilization after civilization from Germany back in 1919, China, Argentina, Russia, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, how they destroyed their societies by debauching their currency. Because when we went from real money, God's money, aka silver and gold, to government-created money, fiat currency, well, it created an illusion of value for a fake fiat debt money system to continue. And they did this during the Roman era when they started to clip silver, because silver had been the central medium of exchange for centuries, and they used to clip the edges of silver coins until there was virtually nothing left on these coins, and they would melt it down, create new coins. And they're doing that with physical coins today. Most of these coins, if not all of them, aren't real silver if you go after a certain date, and I believe it's 1960 something. Unless you get like a real silver coin. These quarters with George Washington's head on them, you can look at the edge of them. Like this dime right here that was made in 1988, if you look at the edge of it, it's kind of hard to see with the focus of the camera. But if I pull back a little bit and rotate it, you can see it's faded. It's not real silver. This is junk silver here. And you can see this quarter right here made in 2022. It looks like it's silver, right? But when you look at the edge, you see the discoloring right there on the edge of this coin. So this is not a real silver coin because they've been debauching the currency. So since 1873, the silver content in coins has gone from 90% down to 0%. And so the coins are even worthless today. So if you guys have a piggy bank saving a bunch of cash and a bunch of coins, take it down to your local, silver and gold dealer and get yourself some real 99.9% silver coins like these, where you can clearly see this is real silver. The edge of these aren't worn like the quarters. And these ones that I got are the last ones with the queen's head on it before she died. And as you can see right here at the top, they're 99.9% silver. So these ones specifically are the Yale of Beaufort from 2023. But regardless of the year that they were made, these are 2-ounce coins. And so silver has what's called a spot price to it, regardless of the year that it was made. And right now it's at $39 per ounce. So those 2-ounce coins are worth just shy of $80 each. And because I got these all the way back in 2023 at roughly 20-something dollars, I'm up 75% on that. Had I just held those in some coins, I only have like a few coins here, and they're actually mostly from Europe here from like 10 years ago. I made a decision to rotate a lot of quarters and dollars over to real silver. So you can get Buffaloes, Maple Leafs, Silver Eagles, Britannias, you name it, and real silver coins and rounds are going to continue to go up in value because the U.S. national debt is not slowing down. And back in 1862 to 1865, to fund the Union cause in the Civil War, European banks wanted to charge 24 to 36% interest. So instead, President Lincoln printed debt in interest-free greenbacks to continue the war. And about $450 million in greenbacks were printed, about 8% of GDP. Then there was the Panic of 1873 and a depression that lasted for years. The two main monetary causes were the planned calling in of greenbacks and the demonetization of silver, which contributed to a stock market crisis. So because they printed so many of these greenbacks, during a 100-year period from 1773 to 1873, a single ounce of silver paid for the average laborer's daily wage. Today, it would take nearly 10 ounces of silver for a day's wage. So there's been a war on the price of silver that has lasted about 150 years. Actually, it's lasted longer than that, going back to Egyptian times. And if only 2% of the world's population bought 1 ounce of silver, the true price of silver would be revealed, which is between 10 to 20% of the price of gold. So silver has been suppressed for so long. And this is what the US debt clock has been hinting at, showing gold on here, silver, as well as oil, certain crops, real estate, AI, and crypto. And even Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve has been talking about crypto and how Bitcoin is really a competitor to gold now because the Fed knows their banking cartel is expiring. Trump has been talking about firing Jerome Powell. So you obviously know the Federal Reserve was established back in 1913. And it's not federal, and they have no reserves. They created a Ponzi scheme at the highest level. with a never-ending cycle of debt and interest to trap the American people into a life of servitude. And for much of the last 400 years, the banks with the complexity of governments have maintained a carefully controlled illusion that money is fully backed by real-world assets. In truth, money is nothing more than a promise to pay in fake debt-backed assets on an infinite timeline. And this is where fractional reserve banking comes into play. From its inception in 1910 on Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve, along with the fractional reserve banking system, was designed to extract wealth from the working class to the unproductive banking class. It was a carefully crafted scheme to skim 20% of all commerce and wealth creation into the hands of an elite few, and they knew that if successful, America would be trapped in a debt spiral impossible to escape from. So between 1929 and 1933, when the Great Depression happened, over 9,000 U.S. banks failed. The Federal Reserve flunked at its first test to backstop the fractional reserve banking system, and it meant bankruptcy and unemployment for millions of Americans. For the banking cartel opportunity, the greatest consolidation of wealth in human history, where the banking cartel could get bigger and bigger and bigger, consolidating these smaller regional banks to national banks like JP Morgan, Chase. And when you stack on this unlimited money printing with things like credit card debt, unlimited borrowing, buy now, pay later marketing plans, combined with 30-year fixed mortgage rates, where for the first half of the loan, you're just pretty much paying off the interest, which is the future value of what you believe the property is going to be. It's forced asset appreciation. It doesn't necessarily mean that the property is becoming more valuable. It means that the currency and what it was bought with is becoming less valuable. So real estate was forced to go up in price, causing the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer that couldn't afford a home. And we're not even going to talk about student loan debt or even car debt here, which is in the trillions of dollars. That's a whole topic for another video on the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and how the education system was created to program the youth during the wars, follow orders, sit in rows, go to school Monday through Friday, go to the factories Monday through Friday, get homework to memorize information regurgitated on a test, drive from home to work, clock in at the sound of the bell, go home at the sound of the bell, have a lunch hour, have a few breaks, pay tens of thousands of dollars to get a degree that gives you a job that you get taxed on, to where whatever you have left, you buy basic necessities like food, bread, eggs, Campbell's tomato soup, you name it, that continues to go up in value, and you have to pay tax on your tax, paying sales tax to purchase goods and services. So you have too much month at the end of the money and you wonder why you're broke. It's because you're not putting your money into stuff that will make more money. You're falling into another trap of consumerism through megalithic monopoly companies and social media marketing agencies that are psychologically engineered to program your mind for consumerism. So the cycle continues. So many people go out there and they spend their money on the new Xbox, the new PlayStation, the new boat, the new car, you name it. And then they start drowning in their eyes in debt because they put it all on credit, they took out loans, and they don't even understand the interest on those loans and the inflation that comes with basic necessities that they need to survive. And so they created the perfect system to blame inflation rather than blaming themselves for creating inflation. The value of the dollar is deflating thanks to the 100-year criminal scheme implemented by the banks in their Federal Reserve debt money system. So rising prices in the stores are not the fault of the producers of goods and services. They have to stay in business to cover their own margins because of what the Federal Reserve has been doing. And you guys obviously understand this. You've been living in it, but you want a way out. And for over 100 years, the world has witnessed the horrors of communism and how that affects societies and its dehumanizing efforts and effects on civilization, power, control, and expansion by any means. So how do you stop a nation committed to destroying the economic base of another? Well, that's tariffs. Between 1820 and 1913, the U.S. government was mostly funded by tariffs. At just 3.5% of GDP, tariffs could bring in $1 trillion a year of revenue, with the addition of the U.S. dividend dollar counted as revenue by 1.5 trillion. The income tax and corporate tax can be handled and completely eliminated. So how do you destroy the greatest nation ever conceived? Well, you kill incentives by taxing income so people don't want to make more money because they're scared of the taxes that come with it. So why do you tax income? Well, it's the only way that they can fund a Fed debt money Ponzi scheme. So that's why Trump has been talking about tariffs. And while people think it's a bad thing, they really aren't thinking straight. Would you rather the government tax your income more, or would you rather have money come in from tariffs from other countries that have been taking advantage of American citizens by charging America whatever they want for goods and services that are shipped here? I mean, it's common sense at this point. So money loses over 2% value per year through inflation, backed by unpayable debt owned by the Fed banking syndicate. With an unlimited supply, taken off the gold standard with virtually no debt ceiling. Even when they hit the debt ceiling, Janet Yellen, this lady, comes out and she says,
well, really, that's it. We've been using extraordinary measures for several months now, and our ability to do that is running out, and we will start to run down our cash. And our current projection is that in early June, a day will come when we're unable to pay our bills unless Congress raises the debt ceiling. And it's something I strongly urge Congress to do. Of course, it's appropriate to have negotiations about the budget, about spending priorities. President Biden has presented a detailed budget that does cut deficits by $3 trillion over 10 years while investing in the strength of the American economy. But we do need to raise the debt ceiling to avoid economic calamity.
Where she pretty much begs Congress to raise the debt ceiling. They do every single time, allowing them to print even more money, further devaluing the dollar. And when cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin came out and then altcoins eventually started, it gave people a way to move away from the debt-based fiat system over to a decentralized digital currency system. Now, obviously, when you have a new system come out, the elite are going to dive in. They're going to try and deceive people. So this is where the CBDC prison came into place. They thought they could corral the people into a digital prison. And this is where the talks of the 15-minute cities, area-specific digital IDs, where you had a certain amount of timeline where you could spend the CBDC income when you would get it. And they could decide what you spend it on. They could limit your consumption of meat. You name it, with organizations like the BIS, the IMF. And so what the US debt clock is saying here is on the left-hand side of the screen, it says state chartered, no ID required, crypto anonymous, no capital gains tax because taxes would come from tariffs. And if you watched my video yesterday, I played this clip from the Department of Commerce, and here's what they said.
Department of Commerce is going to start issuing its statistics on the blockchain.
So Trump wants to oversee the overseers to demand real-time total accountability from our representatives. So how is it possible that a group of elected officials with a 93% re-election rate can spend 40% of our life and liberty with such little oversight? So we must continuously audit this privileged class of government oligarchs. And that's what they're doing, putting everything on the blockchain. So we'll be able to see political donations, campaign spending, government contracts, non-government orgs with a real-time public ledger. And that's what the Doge clock here was for the Department of Government Efficiency, to uncover what this money was being used for. So the US debt clock is posting this simple plan saying, step 1, sign an executive order stopping the printing of new money and the creation of new bonds by the Fed. Decrease the interest rate to 0% on a new USA Treasury bond. Step 2 would begin the printing of the new USA Treasury dividend dollar, equal to 5% of GDP a year. Spend, not borrow, this new debt/interest fee, 100% reserve currency into circulation. And maintain a stable plus 5% a year M2 money supply. Ensure a minimum 3% yearly value increase of the USA Treasury dividend dollar via the variable asset leveling index. And then step 3 is to watch as the world realizes the fallacy of issuing money as debt and the worldwide matrix of control through the Bank for International Settlements and the IMF crumbling, and witness as the new golden age of wealth creation begins. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is going to take place? Or do you think the Federal Reserve fractional banking system is going to continue for another 100 years? Well, the elite have been preparing for this because if you look at the price of silver, if you look at the price of gold, it's been going up. So they've been accumulating more because they know what is coming. And similar to what happened back here when silver went from $18 an ounce to $50 an ounce, we're about to see silver go parabolic during the next major crisis. And if you just look right here, you can see this massive rounded bottom formation since 2011 right here on the weekly chart. Now, this isn't going to happen right away, but if we just take the depth of this cup here, my guess would be there would be some type of cup and handle formation that would take place, and we put this at the breakout level here. That's bringing silver just to $86. Now, we don't know how quickly that'll happen, but it's inevitable. And I thought this was a great post from Mark Moss here saying history's biggest wealth transfer hides in plain sight, calling it infrastructure inversions, when old technology and new technology exist simultaneously over a 10 to 20 year window. So if you imagine a factory back in 1910, gas pipes still power most of the machines today, but smart owners are installing electric wires. So they're running both systems at the same time. Everyone calls them idiots for wasting money, but this is what MicroStrategy is doing today. These factories didn't wait for gas to disappear. They used profits from gas-powered production to install electric infrastructure at the same time. They looked inefficient, redundant, and stupid, but they were actually positioning for the most obvious transition in history. And Bitcoin treasury companies are doing the exact same thing, running history's most obvious arbitrage. Extract value from the old system, which is debt and equity, and transfer it to the new system, which is cryptocurrencies. They're using gas pipes to fund your electric future. So the criticism is identical to 1910. Why complicate your balance sheet? Your volatility is insane. Just stick to what works. The infrastructure isn't ready. It's the same words, different century. And then when the electric infrastructure flipped, factories had two choices. Number one, desperately retrofit everything, which is expensive and messy. Or number two, already be native to the new system. Guess who won? The two network problem only lasts 10 to 20 years historically. Then one network wins decisively. Electricity won, cars won, the internet won. The inefficient companies running both networks become the foundation of the new economy. And we're seeing this today with cars. You see a lot of cars that are half gas, half electric, and then some cars that have gone full electric that are a little bit too early because there's not enough charging stations and a lot of people aren't ready to make that transition just yet. But by 2040, explaining why companies held dollars instead of Bitcoin will sound like explaining why factories stuck with gas over electricity. These aren't treasury managers, they're infrastructure architects using 20th century capital markets to build 21st century balance sheets. History doesn't remember the critics who called it too risky. It remembers those who built the bridge to the future. And if you guys remember this clip right here, Trump kind of said it as a joke, but there's truth in jokes like this.
I think crypto's got a great future. I think it really does. Maybe we'll pay off the $35 trillion in crypto. I'll write out a little piece of paper, 35 trillion crypto. We have no debt, right? That's what I like, right? He likes that idea too, he's laughing.
And so as Elon Musk has said multiple times in different videos and posts, the most ironic outcome is the most likely. And so what would be the most ironic outcome here? Well, crypto becoming the new electricity rails of the future. And US senators are planning to consider a new version of a crypto market structure bill at the end of September. And what's been happening over the past few months? Well, July of this year, the USA Fedwire Fund Service migrated to ISO 222. By September 30th, all US federal agencies must stop issuing paper checks and switch to electronic payments, including direct deposits in real-time methods where possible. This is an executive order, guys, modernizing federal payments, encouraging real-time options, putting everything on the blockchain. By October 9th, all Euro area banks must send instant payments. Fees must not exceed those of regular SEPA transfers. By October 18th through the 19th, the SEC has a 240-day deadline to decide on the Grayscale XRP Trust, the 21 shares Core XRP Trust, all of the ETFs, with deadlines set on October 18th and 19th for XRP ETFs. And then by November, all financial institutions using SWIFT, the largest payment rails in the globe for cross-border payments, must fully adopt ISO 222. And only ISO 222 will be supported by SWIFT. Cross-border payments, empty messaging will be discontinued. This is going to take the 3 to 5 day ACH and wire transfer payments to near instantaneous 3 to 5 seconds, 7 days a week. And by the end of 2025, ISO 222 is expected to be the global standard for financial messaging, covering 80% of the world's transaction volume and 87% of the total transaction value. And so will we see massive liquidity injections into projects like Chainlink, HBAR, XDC, XRP around the time that these ETFs are decided on come October? Well, we shall see, but like Elon Musk says, the most ironic outcome is the most likely. Have you guys seen the Bearable Guys posts here? They happen every single Christmas. Do you think he's going to make another post around Christmas time with a new riddle of these guys right here, finally in the castle, following the purple brick road to the XRP flag here? Well, I find it all very interesting because when we just look at the facts of the matter, the executive orders, the transition of wealth, and we combine that with predictions, prophecies, things like what Brandon Biggs, the guy who predicted the assassination attempt on Trump, saying right here in this video.
And then he saw XP, but he didn't see the middle letter. And then the Lord showed me driving down the road about X and P. But I saw that certain thing going above $10,000. And I saw it going to $5 quickly. And the Lord told me that this would be big like Apple, Microsoft. It would be the new .com era through digital platform. It'd be a supernatural wealth transfer coming. I believe we are seeing President Trump step on the scene with Elon Musk. And we are seeing people who have a different way of thinking, that are not your average Joes, that have brilliant minds. And the Lord told me there was a Solomon type of an anointing that was coming on Trump in a greater magnitude in this next 4-year term. All I know is that I see a covering and things are different when I pray over it now more than it's ever been.
It's not just some kooky conspiracy anymore from people who are hearing things from God. It's from actual financial elite and players that are running the show. For example, in my last video, I talked about how Tom Oyaya Sakura, I definitely butchered his name there, but he just said here that XRP is not just another crypto. This is the wealth transfer of our generation. So while all eyes are on Bitcoin right now, there's not a lot of people focused on XRP. And when we look at XRP to Bitcoin's price chart, we can see right here that XRP is below this key resistance level. And if you look back in the past at what XRP did relative to Bitcoin at the tail end of the bull run, it absolutely exploded. So like a water pump here that takes a lot of pressure and a lot of effort and elbow grease to build up the momentum before water finally comes out. That's what XRP to Bitcoin's price chart is like. And then you see when it does explode, it happens really quick and it takes forever to build up the pressure. But when the explosion takes place, XRP erupts to the upside and drastically outperforms Bitcoin every single market cycle. So will this cycle be different? Will XRP just stay down here forever? I don't think so, guys. I think when that eruption takes place around these ETFs and towards the end of this year, we'll see an explosion for XRP relative to Bitcoin. And we will see XRP's market cap dominance suck up a lot of liquidity from the system. Right now, XRP rallied from down here at 1%. I talked about this in a previous video on the psychology of a market cycle. Right now, we're just going through the disbelief rally right here relative to the whole entire industry. And if you guys remember correctly, every single time that Bitcoin's dominance breaks down, what cryptos lead the charge? Well, we're seeing it happen with Ethereum right now, but XRP is lagging behind. But I don't think that's going to happen for long. If we look back here, XRP held 20% of the whole entire industry. Now, will it make it up to 20% of this time around? We'll see, because there's a lot of dilution in the market. But I don't see why XRP wouldn't at least get to 10% this time around the ETF news, around the ISO hype towards the end of this year, regardless of whether Swift and all these companies using XRP in 2025 or 2026. I think it's going to take more time than that, but speculation drives markets, similar to what happened during the dot-com bubble boom. And the biggest speculation will be around XRP when we finally see this surge in volume. Because when we look at M2 global liquidity right here, breaking back out again relative to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is lagging behind on this dip right here that we saw on the 31st of July for M2. So will Bitcoin break back to the upside? Well, Bitcoin's actually due for a rally, because when we look at the Bitcoin 4-hour price chart, we can see a divergence right here on the left-hand side of the screen, where the price chart from the 19th of August at $112,000 has been forming lower lows, whereas the relative strength index has actually been forming higher lows. And so we can see this area of resistance right here, this descending resistance, roughly around $110,000. Now, if we see a bounce from Bitcoin from where we're at right now, this is where I would roughly expect Bitcoin to face some resistance at and get rejected in the short term. And simultaneously, if we look on the right-hand side of the screen at Bitcoin's market cap dominance, and we pair it up with the divergence for many indicators, you guys can see when bearish divergences have been called at purple at the top, when we see a rotation from Bitcoin to altcoins or stablecoins. Well, on the contrary, Bitcoin's dominance has actually been pulling back quite a bit, and we've just seen a bullish divergence flash in here for the first time since 2022. And when this happened, it was September of 2022. And that was right around here when Bitcoin went from $18,000 upwards of $22,000 on this quick relief rally, getting rejected from this descending resistance here in this downtrend before inevitably finding the bear market low. So this bullish divergence flashing on Bitcoin's dominance chart doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin breaks out to new all-time highs. It just means Bitcoin could experience a short-term temporary relief rally to this descending resistance before getting rejected. And then if Bitcoin's dominance continues to the downside, well, that money will either rotate into stablecoins or altcoins, and we see the parabolic blow off top for altcoins like XRP. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? If I'm looking at XRP's price chart on the hourly here, we can also see a bullish divergence forming, similar to what happened back here. If I just give you an example, on the 18th of August to the 20th of August on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see how the price chart formed this low right here at $2.96, saw this rally up to this descending resistance and got rejected down here all the way to $2.82. If you look at the relative strength index, you can see how it formed a low right here at 22. On that relief rally, the RSI popped up to 61, came all the way back down here to about 25, forming a higher low, which is a bullish divergence, and then bounced to the upside, getting rejected another time from this descending resistance and forming another lower low on the price chart, where the RSI formed another higher low. So this bullish divergence showed that momentum was slowing down from bearish to where eventually we had a major reversal to the upside. Now that reversal was short-lived, and now look at where we're at on the right-hand side of the screen. We can see that since the 29th of August, just yesterday, to the 30th of August, we can see this bullish divergence forming. So if XRP breaks to the upside, well, where would that descending resistance be? It'd be roughly around $2.90 right here. But we first have to clear $2.83. So how do you play this and how do you trade this? Well, you don't just enter into a long position or just buy a bunch of XRP right now. And as always, I'm not going to give you financial advice. These videos are purely for education and informational purposes only, purely stating my opinion. So go consult your financial advisor, your tax advisor, because I'm just sharing facts on the chart. But what the smartest investors do is they wait for breakouts and retests of major resistance rather than buying while we're still in a downtrend, because we're still in a downtrend right now. You know, we're just forming lower highs. So unless we clear this high right here and we do something like this for XRP, it's best to just be patient and wait, because while we're going through the first, few steps of this bullish divergence here, forming lower lows on the price chart, similar to what happened right here on XRP's price chart, and higher lows on the RSI, it doesn't mean that we reverse right away. This could take a while to play out before we see this bounce take place, and we could form another lower low. So it's virtually impossible to know exactly when the reversal takes place. So how you trade these markets is you wait for a reversal and a back test of a key resistance, and then you set your proper stop losses and your proper take profits after that. Now, if you guys want to learn how to do that, to trade these markets properly, then I'll leave a link in the description below for you to join Altcoin Pro University. And once you join, click on calendar right here, and you're going to see our technical analysis Tuesday calls that you can attend every single Tuesday. So in the next couple days, they're at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have other calls as well too, so you can understand how to do technical analysis. Now, if you want to learn at your own pace and you don't want to be on live, then go into the classroom right here, scroll down to where it says Technical Analysis Essentials. Go through this entire course right here. We're going to lay the groundwork. You're going to understand trading view. You're going to understand common indicators and how to use them, candlesticks plus line charts as well too, and then the 4 horsemen of technical analysis to go from an absolute beginner to intermediate to advanced trader. So if we see a breakout for XRP with Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts to bounce back to $109,000 to $110,000, you need to learn how to use confluence on the chart so you don't get caught buying into peaks when we are overbought at key resistance levels. Because if we rally back up to $2.90, well, similar to us rallying back here to $3.09 for XRP, we could very well get rejected from that level and trade back to the downside. So the cycle repeats itself for newer investors that see videos like this, and they get so excited because they think about a wealth transfer, and so they buy into XRP. You might be watching this video a month later, 2 months later. So XRP's price is going to be completely different than where it's at right now, but you need to learn how to look at charts so you can become a self-reliant investor. And that's what we provide for you guys inside of Altcoin Pro University. Also, on top of that, our research team provides altcoin picks, market updates, airdrop picks, DeFi yield picks from other sectors of crypto like real-world assets, artificial intelligence, gaming. You name it, and our team has called some incredible picks over the past few years. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.